I mean, and I will say, Kyrie wound up being out there with the scrubbers at the end of the Utah game, right? So he obviously was giving effort. The one thing I'll say about him, and I know we just kind of gave him some props for trying to make this team thing work, but not just on offense, defensively, he has his limitations. He is never going to be, an amazing defender, but the effort, I think we have seen it from Kyrie. Defensively,
Yeah.
the effort and the commitment to Brad Stevens' system has been there. This is a guy I want to criticize on so many levels just because I just don't want what's happening with the offense to happen. But at the same time, it's really difficult to criticize him when he's the only one who can generate it. I don't have a lot of criticism, and I don't think Brad Stevens does for Kyrie either. I think he's really looking in other directions. You said on last week's show, Al Horford looks exhausted, and that's going to lead up to really a point I'm going to make when we get done with the Brad Stevens conversation. But Brad is frustrated with the effort. Do you think it's the young guys as well? Like the veteran young guys, meaning specifically Brown and Tatum? Or do you think it extends beyond that to Hayward and Horford? Or do you think he's got a pass for Horford for Hayward because he's coming back from injury, and maybe even Horford because Horford's getting a little run down, having to do all the dirty work in the post?
I mean, look, I'm not. I think Hayward had his best game of the year against Toronto, personally. I thought he really did a lot of the things that they need for him, for given where his limitations are. And if he can provide that sign of scoring a little bit, but really distributing and running the second unit, I think things will settle down a great deal. And because they have a lot of guys that like to look for their own shot. When Smart and Rozier were in that second unit, it was and really handling the ball a lot. It did not go well. When Hayward did so, start of the second quarter, a bit more in the fourth, I thought that was really the most effective unit times for that bench unit. So I'm a little bit more positive about Hayward, and that's not just because we wanted him to come here and all that goes with that. I'm going to give him a pass on playing 39 minutes and then after being on a 25-minute restriction and then go and play in a back-to-back. So I'm going to give him a pass on Saturday. But you got to look at everywhere. You got to look at Horford. He's got to give more effort. You got to look at definitely Brown and Tatum. You got to look at Rozier, who has been a complete shell of the guy we were used to last spring. Baynes had a great start. He's kind of tailed off a little bit. I mean, it's just everybody needs to do more. And I think it's the little things. It's that little bit of extra effort that I think, like you said, Kyrie Irving is giving that. He's doing more than what we're used to. He's not just the one-dimensional, get your points and get out of the way. He's trying, at least defensively. He's trying, I don't think we're getting that same amount of effort.
He's gambled, but he's made some plays on defense. And I think the whole team is actually trying to be a little too selfless. I think you said on Twitter that the Celtics had installed an offense that Brad has done a great job, that these guys are getting open looks and they're just not knocking them down. And that's absolutely true. And I'm going to go back to last week on this one too. I mean, I agree Brad should be mad. Mad Brad, Breaking Mad Brad Stevens. I just think this guy should be upset. But the thing is that they're just not hitting open jumpers. And I said last week that I thought they should sacrifice a little on defense and just try to get into an up-tempo offense. And you look at that Utah game, how much did they push the pace? They just dictated everything on offense against the Celtics defense. And the Celtics had some really good, especially in the first half, had some great defensive possessions, great rotations, just, getting to the man, switching. The whole thing was, but I think they just got worn out. And the truth is the other team is always going to be able to expend more on offense when they're not being made to work defensively. And that's what's happening to this Celtics team. They're getting overpowered on offense, even when they're on defense, by the other team's offense, because they're just not able to create and put any pressure when they're on offense. They've done all the right things, but then they don't knock down the big shots, and they're not aggressive getting the ball into the post. They're not aggressive pushing the pace. And so when they're not knocking down those wide open shots, it ends up really just lackadaisical defense for the opponent, and then they can assert so much more on offense, and that's where that net differential really is killing them.